You must be thinking.
I've done it a lot.
Not to name any names. I was in show choir. Did you roll your eyes?
No, I stuck my tongue.
You hear this a lot.
I don't know what the rest of you are doing, but
Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'd like to introduce Ericka Kott and thank you for joining me on the channel today. Some of you may already know her very well. You either have her in class or you follow her TikTok. Ericka, what is your TikTok?
at Mrs. Cott77. Follow me.
I will put it right here on the video and I'll also link it in my description so you can follow, you can click on it, you can like, whatever it is you do on TikTok.
Because you're too old for TikTok.
I am too old for TikTok. I tried it. I think you're the only person I follow. That's it. We'll wait for that to stop. And this is going to go on the bloopers too. You probably can't hear this, but my clock is ticking and it's very loud. And it goes on for about a minute. If you have any other teacher that you would like me to interview or certain questions you would like me to ask, put them in the comments below and I'll see if I can get that teacher in here to interview them and of course ask them those specific questions. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got into teaching?
Well, let's see. A little bit about myself. I have 3 of my own kids. I've been teaching for 22 years now. And I got into teaching because I knew I wanted to work with kids, but I thought psychology was the path I wanted to take. But then I thought that could be kind of sad. So I decided that I wanted to get into teaching. And it turns out psych is kind of a good minor for teaching anyway.
Absolutely. Why would you say that?
Well, I mean, I feel like our job is at least 50% taking care of kids' mental health anyway. So it helps.
Yes. What made you switch from psychology to education?
Well, so actually, I didn't tell the whole story. I was first a physical therapy major,
Okay.
like every high school athlete, and I went into college thinking that's what I wanted to do. And then I kind of got interested in the brain because I had a brain injury myself, and so I kind of was interested in how that all works. So I started taking psych classes, and then, like I said, I always really kind of wanted to work with kids. So I thought psychology, I didn't want to get into so much trauma with what was going on with kids. I felt like maybe I wasn't going to be able to handle that. So I decided that education was a pretty close leap from that. So.
Mm-hmm. Do your students know that you had a brain injury?
Oh, yeah, most of them. I usually use it as an excuse for why I can't remember things.
Probably a good excuse. In your journey along the way and becoming a teacher, was there someone that kind of inspired you to say, hey, you should be a teacher, or someone that you wanted to emulate?
Yeah, I had well, I still do. I'm in contact still with my freshman health teacher. He was also my basketball coach. And he was, gosh, first of all, he is just a really great person overall. Mm-hmm. In fact, we've had him here at Claggett to speak to my students, so mm-hmm. That's been nice. But he just overall is the kind of person I wanted to be. And so when I got into education, in fact, I used one of his lines that he caught me with one time when I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing in class.
You want to share that line?
Sometimes I'll tell kids that I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be so rude and interrupt your conversation while I'm trying to teach here. So I'll wait for you to get done before I continue.
That's a good one. That's a good one. You can go ahead and shout him out right now. You can say his name.
Dave Ward, my favorite teacher of all time.
So hopefully he will see this and see what an impact that he has made on you. And of course, how you make an impact on kids.
Hopefully.
We're with kids every day, all day long, for good or for bad. What are some of the things that you love seeing in class that just inspire you with kids?
Well, one of them is like the aha moment when a kid finally is like, oh my gosh, I get it. I see what you're saying. I understand what you're trying to get me to understand. Or also just seeing when the kids like really trust you and they know that they can come to you with things other than stuff in the classroom. You know, if they're having a bad day or if they notice you're having a bad day and they say, hey, are you okay today? Like that's huge to me, that kids care enough about you and how you feel to ask you about it, because middle schoolers are kind of all about themselves all the time.
So let's talk about that first, because then I have another question about that trust issue. Again, what do you teach?
7th grade language arts.
Okay. How long, about on average, do you think it takes a 7th grader to trust you or a teacher enough to kind of share those things like, I'm having a bad day, or I just don't get this, or I don't think you really pay attention to me, like those types of things?
I mean, I think it varies depending on who the teacher is and how vulnerable you are with kids. I feel like I'm pretty much an open book with my kids from the very beginning, and I tell them I will be honest with them regardless. And sometimes it's not going to be things that they want to hear, but it's always said in a way to help them or to, show them that I care about them. So I'd say it takes a good quarter. I mean, maybe a little less, give or take, but everything is really scary in middle school, in my opinion, in seventh grade, especially because they're all trying out new things and new personalities and all that kind of stuff. So I would say about a quarter, give or take, till they start to really buy into, okay, I think I can trust her, and vice versa.
Have you had students before that really keep that wall up for a long time?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think there are a handful of students still that I would say, we're in May, that I would really have to pry to get them to tell me anything about themselves. I think that they would, but they don't come with it willingly, I guess.
Yeah, you really have to establish that relationship first,
Right.
really, before they're willing to tell you some of their concerns.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so middle school is a tough time, crazy time for kids and for adults, really.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most frustrating behavior of students? Not to name any names, kids.
Right. Yeah, no, never mind. I won't say it. The most frustrating behavior, boy, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard to narrow that down. I would say when they give no effort, the I can't after looking at something for such a small period of time. I think that all of us, kids and adults, have shorter attention spans now because of the nature of our entertainment.
Oh, I would agree.
So I think that we don't have a whole lot of academic stamina, and that's frustrating. Also, the behavior of, I see a kid do something and I say, hey, don't do that. And they say, I didn't do it. And my favorite line is, I'm sorry, but you might as well just say to me, Mrs. Kott, I think you are so dumb that you're going to believe that I did not do this, even though you watched me do it with your own eyes.
Saw with your own eyes. I didn't do it.
I am pretty sure I can make you believe me.
Yes, but you must be thinking.
Right,
because
exactly.
I did nothing.
Right.
That is pretty frustrating.
So, yeah.
What are some things that you love besides the aha moment?
Yeah.
What are some of the behaviors you love to see in kids?
I love to see them go at anything like with some enthusiasm, even, or take risks. I always tell the kids, I won't ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. And so the kids that take that risk, and we have dance party Fridays, and I have about 4 kids who will actually dance. I don't know what the rest of you are doing, but
dancing is fun.
Right. And they'll get up and have fun, and I like that. I like it when kids are willing to take risks.
And of course, like you just said, they need to be comfortable enough to take those risks.
Right.
Would you say some kids are comfortable with failing?
I don't think anybody's comfortable with failing at the beginning. I do think we spend a lot of time talking about how the goal is to continually make progress, and how we can learn from the things that we did wrong and all of that. And we do a lot of things like retakes and corrections and things like that. What I really want the kids to take away from it is, instead of looking at it as a failure, think about it as kind of a stepping stone, because I try to tell them, if they already knew how to do everything I was teaching them, I wouldn't actually be teaching them anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's one thing that you wish parents would understand about teaching or the classroom or their own child?
Wow. Well, I mean, I feel like people have said this a million times, but one thing I would say to parents, really, I think we all need to do each other the courtesy of, like, I'll believe half of the stuff they tell me happens at home, and you can believe half of the stuff that they tell you that happens at school.
Yes,
Those kinds
I've
of
heard
things.
that before.
But also that we are doing our best, and sometimes it's not easy. And, we do have kids who are coming from all kinds of different backgrounds, and we're trying to meet the needs of all of them. And yeah, sometimes we make mistakes, but again, at the end of the day, I think we're all trying to do our best and trying to take care of these kids, as long as they're in our care. If there are missteps made, I would ask that parents just reach out and ask questions before assuming that we are doing something horrible or, not doing our jobs.
Yes. So if you've seen other videos before and other teachers that I've interviewed, you hear this a lot, and it comes down to one word, and that's communication, right? If you communicate with the teacher, if you have a question, reach out to the teacher to ask them, hey, my son came home, my daughter came home and said this, or I've heard this on, some social media site. Can you explain why this is, or why did they get a 6 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10 on this last assignment? Reach out to that teacher and ask them. Just communicate with them why.
Well, and kids, you should do the same. Come and talk to me. I'll talk to you about why you did what you did anyway.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I advocate for that as well. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders should be advocating for themselves. How do you get kids to advocate for themselves?
Again, I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, building a relationship and saying to them, look, this is where we are right now. In our class, I try to meet with the kids every couple of weeks about where their grades are, why things are going the way that they are, checking in. I think it just comes down to, again, that being honest with each other, and if I make mistakes, I tell the kids, like, look, I messed this up. I am so sorry. The more frequently you admit you've made a mistake, it gets way easier, because I've done it a lot,
Yes.
so it gets easier to do the more often you practice doing it. So.
Right. One thing I've learned recently, read the book, it's right over here, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. And it talks a little bit about being vulnerable in the workplace, being vulnerable with your own children, with your own family, and of course as a teacher, if you can admit those mistakes and say, hey man, I screwed this up, I graded your paper wrong, which is, in my opinion, a very minor mistake, right? Or accusing a student of doing something that they absolutely didn't do, but you totally believe that they did it. I've been there before too, and I've had to reach out to that kid and say, you know what, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I apologize. And that is a great way, I think that's a great way to model for kids.
Right.
When you make mistakes, you have to own up to your mistakes.
Right. For example, our internet went out and it ruined all of our plans.
Here at the building.
Yes, here at the building. Yes. And we had to kind of make something up as we went. There was a lot of, you just mentioned modeling. I mean, there's a lot of that. Like, guys, look, I have two choices right here. I can either say, well, the day is busted and it's ruined and we can do nothing and we're going to sit here and we're going to be mad and pout about it. Or we can, think creatively and do something different. And I think that's another really great thing to show kids, because things do not always go the way we think they're going to go. Even when you have the best laid plans, things can go wrong. And to show them that doesn't mean we quit. Because I feel like, again, back to the whole perseverance thing.
Yes.
I feel like I can't is such a readily used phrase for these kids.
Yeah, it's overused quite a bit. Okay, so let's talk about COVID. Did you roll your eyes?
No, I stuck my tongue out.
Right. We've been dealing with this for 2.5 years now. Everyone deals with it in the entire world. But what do you think was the most difficult thing about either COVID or this post-COVID time?
Yeah, I think honestly the post-COVID is worse than during. I think during we did everything we could to try to make things as normal as possible for these kids, make the connections, make it way less traumatic than it was for them. However, I think now a lot of people have underestimated what kind of impact that has had on these kids who missed particularly those very formative, upper elementary years with their peers, I'd be really interested in like a sociology study of the impact on these kids, because those interactions with peers are so important, and these kids seem to have lost some traction on how to exist with others in the same community.
Yes. Whether they're sitting next to each other
Right.
or walking down the halls, I agree 100%. This post-COVID time, this back to normal is way worse. You're right. It's just the interactions with kids. They haven't had practice with it.
Right.
They haven't had what I would consider experts coaching them
Right.
on what is appropriate in school or out of school and what is not appropriate to do in a large group setting.
Well, I was going to say, and they don't know how to share, if you will, attention. Because when we were at home, I mean, at least in my home, I had my 3 kids, and if they needed something, provided I wasn't on a Zoom call, sometimes when I was on a Zoom call, they're coming in saying, I need you right this second. And I see a lot of, I'll be in the middle of a conversation with a student, and another kid is like, Mrs. Scott, Mrs. Scott, Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
And they just don't, I don't think they even realize, because the second you tell them, they're like, oh yeah. But I think that idea of having to share the attention with other people, it just, they've missed all of that. So,
that's something that I haven't realized until right now, because I've had those conversations every day with kids. I'll be talking with another adult in the hallway or talking with another student, and I'll get interrupted with kids, and I don't want to say annoying, but it's frustrating. I mean, okay, I will say annoying.
You could say annoying.
It is very annoying when you're talking with someone and a student comes and interrupts the conversation. So, but you're right. I think they have to relearn that that's not appropriate to interrupt.
Okay.
If you were no longer a teacher, if for some reason you couldn't teach or chose not to teach, what would you do for work? Like you still had to work.
Okay, I got that. But like dream occupation, or like what realistically I think I could.
Well, give me both. Since you gave those options, then both.
I mean,
dream
occupation. I would for sure be a performer somewhere. Okay. I would be a movie star.
Like sing and dance?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I'm not really that good at either one of those, though, so that's why I said dream occupation.
Okay.
I mean, I would do it. I'm not very good at it. I don't think anybody paid me for it right now. But, okay, second, realistic.
Yes, in reality.
I would probably do something like open like an Etsy shop or something. I would craft. I would find some way to make money crafting. That would be my thing.
I know you made shirts before and cups and things like that.
Yeah, I've done a lot of like made ornaments, glasses, like I don't know, you name it.
Labels,
signs, labels, stickers. You need anything crafted? I'm your girl.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, I was not prepared for this portion of the interview.
No.
I didn't know it was going to be a Q&A portion.
Yeah, usually I don't ask that.
Okay, so if you weren't in education, what would you do?
So I would probably...
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you because I know that's rude. But
yes,
I want your dream, like if you could do exactly what you really wanted to do, and then what realistically you think you could do.
Dream job? Boy, I never really thought about that. Like what my dream job is?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sit on a beach somewhere?
No, you said that's not occupation. A job. What are you, like you're gonna hunt for the medal? Like you're gonna be one of those guys?
I mean, I was in show choir. That may be news to some of you, but I did sing and dance. I still sing, but not on my YouTube channel, not yet. Maybe someday I'll sing. We'll see. But
professional sand volleyball player or something.
Oh yes, that too. I love playing sand volleyball. Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe singing. A real occupation?
Yeah.
So I grew up loving to do things with my hands, and I love fixing things. So a lot of my YouTube videos are on DIY. Do it yourself, fixing this, fixing that. So I do love that. But when I was in my 20s, I used to watch Extreme Home Makeover, and I loved that. So my dream job would be to make over people's, whether bathrooms, kitchens, for free. Get donations in and just do it because they deserve it. So that's what I would love to do. The finger point?
Yeah.
Ready? Ericka, thank you for joining me today. This was very enlightening. We had some great topics, some great answers to questions, both sides, I think. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe.